Brittany. So, today's gonna be a movie review, and today I'll be reviewing The Mask. And this year, The Mask will celebrate its 30th anniversary. And so, The Mask was released July 29th, 1994, directed by Chuck Russell, starring Jim Carrey, and introducing Cameron Diaz. So this was her first role, um, starring role. Um, and yeah, we just have this great cast. And so it's based on The Mask by Dark Horse Comics. So I never knew that for a long time, but when I did came to find out that was based on these really dark, graphic comic books, I just thought was very interesting. And I just thought, wow, I had no idea that The Mask was a comic book, like a comic book series of Stanley Ipkiss. So, yeah, and it was. And so, yeah, I just found that very interesting. And I never really read the comic books of The Mask itself, but I know from what I've heard it's very graphic, very gruesome, brutal, very dark. But on the other hand, I'm kind of curious. I feel like I'm kind of curious to read the books and to see just how very different it is from the movie itself. And from what I've heard, that um, I have to look this up. I have to find it again because I actually read somewhere that someone was planning on. I think it was a director. I think. I think either the writer or the director wanted the mask to be dark as a comic book. They wanted to go off on that, but when they casted Jim Carrey for the role, they decided not to do that because they know it would not go as dark as they wanted to when casting Jim Carrey, so they had to switch it from this really dark story, from based off how dark and brutal the comic books are, to turn it into a more funny comedy movie. So they had to change that when they casted Jim Carrey for the role. But I'm glad they did, because if they had stuck with how they wanted it to be originally, that would have meant that instead of casting Jim Carrey, which would have turned out this very great, hilarious comedy movie, that instead I think they would have casted maybe someone else for the role, for it to be really dark, like a horror movie version of The Mask. So I do believe so. Just wanted to mention that. So of course, so yeah, in this movie we get Jim Carrey, who plays a bank clerk in Edge City. And so just when it seems like he's maybe not having so much luck um, with some things, when it comes to his landlord of his apartment, or even trying to ask a woman out on a date. But things start to change, and of course when Cameron Diaz comes in, of course we all can see at that point that his eyes just went wide. So of course, later they do, as we can see, that they have this, feelings for each other. Although in a way, it almost kind of reminds me of Batman a little bit because she really likes the mask, but she doesn't know that the mask is Stanley Ipkiss. But then later, when she finds that out, then she, her feelings doesn't change because she, then knows that her feelings weren't just the mask, it was him. So that like kind of reminds me of Batman a little bit, only because you get where the female character where she really likes Batman, but she also likes Bruce Wayne, but she doesn't know that he is Batman. But when she finds out, she realizes that her feelings were there, and that that she still likes him and everything. So her feelings don't change even when she finds out of his identity. So only that part kind of reminds me of that a little bit. So yeah, with Cameron Diaz, we see where she works at this casino where she I think she sings there. Yeah, she works there, and her boyfriend is none other than, what's his name? I'm sorry, that just sounds. I'm sorry, that just kind of sounded mean to say, like, what's his name? That's because I'm trying to think at the moment. Oh, Dorian. Okay, that's what his name is. I'm sorry. Somehow I kind of forgot for a sec. Somehow I was thinking Damien. I'm like, no wait, that could be it. I'm probably thinking of that name because I probably heard it from somewhere else. But no, it's Dorian. Okay, so that's her love interest, her boyfriend, but he's not such a nice guy. He's he's a bad guy, and so as we can see now. And my question is though, is that when Jim Carrey finds the mask, okay, I know that the mask got piled onto some other stuff because earlier in the movie, in the beginning, we see that these men and this scuba diver, um, was trying to open this trunk, and this trunk had something in it. But then something happens where the scuba diver gets crushed by this pole that someone had just dropped in, and so they didn't know he was there by the time he opened the trunk. And so the mask just floats up, and of course we don't really see it after that, but we don't see it again until Jim Carrey finds it. But my question is this, is that with a scuba diver, when he found it, and when that big pole had dropped on him, I'm just curious though, I know they don't mention this at all, but did he either got really hurt or he had to go to the hospital to recover, or did he die on impact? Because if he did, then that's like, I don't know, that just doesn't seem fair for this character, even though we don't know the character at all, even though even though we don't know who he is, even though he's not the kind of character that we would get to know later on, but still, to kill this unknown character right in the beginning of the movie, it's just unfair. And so I just hope that he wasn't killed like that. I just hope that maybe he was just taken to the hospital and he had to probably stay there for like maybe 2-3 weeks or so just to recover, so that's what I'm hoping, that's what it was. Yes, as we can see that yes, with Stanley, he doesn't seem to have the best of luck. um and so when he's trying to get into the club with his friend, they wouldn't let him in, so they pretty much just dropped him off, like on the sidewalk. And of course, his suit gets ruined. Oh no, wait a minute, am I thinking of a different scene? No, wait, no. I'm so sorry, because at first when I was explaining this, I thought, oh, I'm probably thinking of a different scene, so I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself. But no. So yeah, his suit gets ruined, but then it gets ruined again when the limousine drives through, I think, a pile, not a pile, uh, not a pile, it's a puddle of water, a pile. I'm sorry, somehow just kind of mixing my words, just kind of saying certain words when I know it's not the word I'm trying to say, but I'm looking for another word. I'm sorry. I know what it is. It's a caffeine withdrawal, so I just need caffeine because if I don't have it soon, I'm gonna have a really bad headache. So I'll have it later, sometime after this. So anyway, so his suit gets ruined again as the limousine drives through, when it splashes him with a puddle of water, and uh, you just can see. And of course, he sees Tina again, Cameron Diaz, and so, um, I think this is kind of interesting, and it's just so like, um, like how that's going, and it just shows how he's trying to play cool about it and everything, but then the guy comes in with his car with a ticket, and so he pretty much has to go. But then by the time he does leave, um, what was it that he said to her? He says, "You're driving in a Porsche," so. I'm not sure with how he said it, if he was trying to say something else, but yeah, that's what happened. Um, and so we just can see that things don't quite look good, with his luck that he's having, and he's not having the night, he's just not having a good night to himself at all. And so, but then when he does find the mask, things start to change. Okay, I know you're hearing that. That's quite loud, but it's it's some kind of car. I don't know what you call it, but it's some kind of car where the engine is loud. So sorry about that. It's just like driving by here, kind of slow, and the engine's just loud. And so when he does put on the mask, like there's this other part of him that comes out, like this other side to him that he probably didn't knew he had, or or maybe it's a side that he knew he had, but doesn't really show that because it's kept hidden deep inside of him. So when he does put on the mask, he becomes this other part of himself, which he describes later in the movie, that he becomes this love crazy wild man. And I couldn't agree more, but I love that scene where he puts on the mask, and then you see him like how do I put it? Like twirling? Well, not really twirling, but you know, like he's spinning around like a tornado. And so, and what I love about this is that when he stops right near his bed, you um the camera gets a close up, and then he says this line which I love, and he says, "Smoking." So I love it. I love that. And so yeah, that was like the first time he's put on the mask and he has done something. And so he has like this crazy night, you know, first of shooting these guys while shooting at this, I think, some kind of gang um, in the alley where the dumpsters are, and with a, what do you call it? A tubby gun, but like a balloon out of it. You know those balloons where you make ammo balloons with. Well, he turned that into that gun and starts shooting them with it. And so, yeah, then he realizes the power that he had. You know, the power that he has with the mask and everything. So, because, yeah, with the mask on, you could pretty much do anything. But that's also scary too, because on one hand, that could be a good thing and bad thing, because it depends on what your actions are and what you're gonna do and how you're gonna use them. Whether if you're gonna do something really bad, like commit a crime. So when it comes to something like that, yeah, that's bad. But if you use them for good, to help people or to do something good with it, you know, then that's good, no matter what it is. But then later, as he puts on the mask again, now he actually attends to the casino, and but before he does, he robs a bank. He robs a bank with a lot of money. I don't know how much money he stole, but it was a lot of money. And he actually bought himself a limousine. But this limousine was just really long. But what they did was they actually exaggerated um, how long the limo was, because I've read somewhere that they had to film that scene. I think they had to film the limousine driving to make it look like it's this really really long limousine. So that's what they had to do. Um, so yeah, by the time he arrives there at the casino with this really really long limousine, um, he tells the guy at the front that he is not on the list, but he does have money on him. But he says it in such a way that's just really um, funny. And then, of course, when he sees Tina again, he sees that she's there at the casino and she's singing on stage. And um, so, oh my gosh, his reactions to her is just so funny, and it just makes me laugh every time. And even later when he um, goes up, like when he goes up to her, well, actually, when he goes up to where the stage is at, and all of a sudden, um, he turns all the performers into, uh, you know, other performers, and when he, well, you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden he spins them around, and all of a sudden they're wearing suits, and they just start playing, and like they know what they're playing, and yeah, I think that's a great scene too, because it shows how he he's now expressing himself with this whole new side to him that he was never able to do as Stanley Ipkiss, but he can do as the Mask. And so he's not shy to do anything, and he was also wasn't shy to dance with Tina, especially not so shy at all to even to kiss her as the Mask. So that was just like very bold of him, very, but it's just so hilarious, like the things he does and what he says, how he says it. It's just so funny, even with the park scene. Now, for those who may know, now there's just something that he says to her in the park scene that is in fact more of a is more of a mature adult content, but it's very dirty, and you'll see why. You'll hear why, because I never noticed it before for a long time, but at some point I remember there was a time where I actually really heard it of what he said clearly, and I realized what he said and what he meant, and I just started laughing. So yeah, this is just a really great movie, but I'll just say this, the way he says it, it was more different. It's nothing like how it would be today, or if he had said the actual words of it, but he put it in a different kind of way, which I liked because I think it was quite clever. And it still gives you the idea where you know what he's saying, so you just know. But yes, I love this story, and I do love the fact that with both, I think, the writers and the director, that when they did cast the Jim Carrey, that they decided not to do the movie really dark like they originally planned, only because with casting Jim Carrey, they knew that the movie wouldn't be how they wanted it to be, and that it wouldn't be this really dark, horrific, brutal horror movie. And I'm pretty sure one day someone might do like a horror movie version of The Mask one day, probably. I actually had a dream about that, of a trailer of that. So if you want to hear about that, I'll leave it right here in the iCard here, there. I think it's there. And so yeah, I'm glad they didn't go that way, because yeah, it would have been very different, and I just can't imagine Jim Carrey playing such a very dark role. I can't, especially like that. But I'm glad they did change the tone of the movie, where they decided to make it this, I think, family friendly movie, more like of a comedy movie. So I'm glad that they changed that when they casted Jim Carrey. So I'm thankful for that, because if they hadn't changed the tone of the movie when they casted him, then we would not get this great, hilarious comedy movie of The Mask, and we would not get those great lines, those quotes that we hear today. We probably wouldn't see those great scenes and those even really funny scenes of The Mask. We probably would not have get that if they have kept it the way of that. But I'm glad they did change it. Sorry, my throat's getting a little dry. And yes, I do believe that Jim Carrey was the perfect choice for The Mask, without a doubt, because he can play, a character where he seems like this, character, even the character that may be down on his luck, but he's still doing his best. He still arrives to work, and that he's still doing what he can to make the best of it, no matter what. But at the same time, he can play the kind of character is just so like wacky, like this really, I would say, crazy funny character. And yeah, so he can really play that very well because he's known for that. He's known for those roles of the sense of humor that he has, where he can really play such a great funny role and really bring his humor into it, which really makes the character unique and so funny and enjoyable to watch. And with Cameron Diaz, this was her first role, and she was great too. So I love her performance of The Mask. So she was the perfect role for Tina Carlisle, and the rest of the cast is great. I love their performances, and I'm sorry if I had mixed up the names with Dorian, because somehow I couldn't remember, and I knew it was a name that started with a D. I couldn't remember which, so sorry for that mix up. I thought that was kind of funny. So yeah, overall, like I said, I love the cast, I love the performances, I love how it was directed, and I love that they changed it to make it into more of a comedy movie instead, because we would not have gotten that if they had kept it as a horror movie. But I'm glad we got the one that we did, because it's just great, it's funny and enjoyable. And I also love the effects too, the special effects, and I love the music, the songs that were chosen for the movie, and yeah, it's just really great. Like it's just this it's just a really great comedy movie where you're gonna have a fun time. It's very enjoyable, and where you're just gonna really enjoy everything, the humor, the performances, bless you, and you're just gonna enjoy just everything, and it's just so fun to watch and so enjoyable. And yeah, everyone did such a good job. So I give credit to everyone who worked on the movie, both on screen and off screen, and I love the music. The music is great, and the song choices, and just everything. And I love how it ended too, because it had a good ending. Sorry, saw something floating up. Looked like a little lint. So that's my review on The Mask. And to rate it, I would give it an A. I would give it a 9 out of 10. And I would give it, let's see, I would say 92%. And I would give it 4 stars. And I just love it. This is one of my favorite movies, even one of my favorite Jim Carrey movies, because I love his performance in this movie, and I had grew up watching it. And I will do other videos on The Mask to celebrate its 30th anniversary in July. So I hope you enjoyed this, and to see more movie content, please subscribe and click on the bell so you'll be notified when I upload. That's all for today, and I'll see you at the movies.